work on the governor's garden or clean up around the car parks and things like that. So we had a lot of autonomy.
And of course you had to give up a pretty good job already to take that job, didn't you? You were...
I did. I was the gym orderly.
The gym orderly.
Everyone thought that was the best job in the prison.
And you got quite fit through that, did you?
Yes, I played badminton all day. I did weights.
Sounds
it's
like
actually a good idea.
A little piece of paradise in there.
No.
You're painting too rosy a picture here, Lee.
Yeah, not paradise, but I mean, it was 2.5 years before I got the gym orderly job. But it's a very good idea to stay fit and strong while you're in prison. There's no place for weaklings. So, I mean, even before that, I was doing 100 press-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats every day in my cell. I'd do that, and it's built up to it, and then after all, I could just do it without thinking. I've never been as fit in my life as gym orderly.
And that was really motivated by self-defense. To be able to defend yourself.
There is always that in the back of your mind, but it's partly for your own morale. You see some people start sinking in prison, and you think, well, I don't want to be like that. I've got to keep myself together, and so keeping yourself together physically is one of the ways to do it.
I see.
So anyway, I finally got to be the gardener, and the garden screw, he was one of those screws, and there are a few of them, who really don't like screws. He didn't like the other screws at all. He saw himself as completely different. And in fact, he had virtually no contact with the others, because he would come in, collect his work party, and go off and work outside and come back at the end of the day. So we had a lot of freedom, and he let us he was a nice guy, actually. He let us take part in the decisions as to what plants we would grow, because apart from looking after the gardens and the lawns and the flower beds within the prison, and there were some, we had a huge greenhouse where we raised hundreds of thousands of plants. I think 200,000 plants every year.
So you became a botanist, in fact.
Well, I learnt a lot, actually.
Any illegal substances grown there, or was it all kosher plants?
It was stuff you could buy from the seed catalogues. So we supplied all the offices of the whole of southern England, all the prison offices. Lots of civilians work in administration jobs in prison, and there are banks of offices in the prisons, and we supplied all of them with
house
pot plants.
Pot plants. Oh,
nice. Indoor
yeah.
plants.
Fantastic. Yeah.
But what I did was, for my suggestion as to one of the seeds we should get, I said, I think we should have Ipomoea. It's a beautiful flowering plant, grows very quickly. We can grow it all up the sides of the greenhouse and so on. And around about that time, I think just before, by then I'd been 3 years in the prison, and I was living there. After a while, you're there and you don't think you can bear it, but it carries on. And finally you're living there and you work out what's what and so on. So I was one of the... I'd been in... This is Bristol prison. I'd been there longer than most of the other people there. So I was able to talk to the principal officer in the long-termers wing and suggest that it might be a good idea for the morale of the prisoners if everyone could have a pot plant in their cell. And he agreed.
All right.
So I chose Ipomoea for my cell, and some of our listeners may well know that Ipomoea is more commonly called morning glory, and the heavenly blue variety of morning glory contains a psychedelic drug. So I had this plant growing, some in the greenhouse, and one growing all around my cell window. And in the autumn, I dried the seeds, and I crushed them up, and I ate them. And that was a trip. It wasn't a very strong trip, nothing like acid, but it was a trip. It was little victories.
I hope you're not ruining it for current-day prisoners who are probably trying to do the same trick.
Oh dear, I should have kept my mouth shut.
Are they probably growing something a little bit more, with seeds that are a little bit more stronger?
Yes, it's as I understand it, these days you have hot and cold running water in the cell, TV, internet access.
Wow.
It's
completely different, huh?
Yeah, it has changed a lot. Conditions have changed a lot.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic.
Okay, you said some prison stories. That's one. I'd like to read a bit from my book, if that's okay.
Certainly, yeah.
And this is just after I've been transferred to Ley Hill Open Prison. I've been in Bristol for over 4 years, and this is the first time in years that I've been anywhere else, and it was quite overwhelming, actually. I won't describe it all. It's in the book, but I got to the open prison, startlingly full of choices, lots of freedom, poisonous atmosphere, strange place. And okay, this is from the book.
It's from your book, To Live Outside the Law.
Okay. On that second day at Ley Hill, I very nearly blew it. Cons were counted several times a day and 3 times at night to see if anyone had legged it. Exploring the further reaches of the ground, smelling plants I'd forgotten all about, I didn't hear the roll call bell and arrived late for the afternoon count. In the doorway of the Nissen hut, I came up behind a red-headed screw as he finished his tally. All the squares by the cubicle numbers on his clipboard had been ticked, except for mine. "Fielding, number 5, I said, coming up behind him, pointing to the blank square. I walked to my cubicle and stood outside it like all the other cons. "You'd better apologise for being late, Fielding," the screw rasped. "And you call me sir, got that?" Dry-mouthed from the grass I'd been smoking, I remained silent. "Did you hear me, Fielding?" "Yes." The silence lengthened. Down at the far end of the hut, someone began to laugh. Others joined in. The screw went brighter and brighter red. Abruptly he spun on his heel and strode off. Cheers and jeers followed him. "Fuck off, Screw, on your bike, Ginger. Good for you, mate." A congratulatory crowd gathered around me. I was in. All these tests we have to pass. Had I apologised or said sir, I'd have been finished. I was shaking in reaction to the incident. Confrontations leave me feeling weak and angry. It's a bad combination. What would this temporary popularity end up costing me? I'd publicly humiliated one of the warders. He had all the advantages if he wanted to get his own back.
Wow. Fantastic. It is a very gripping book. It really is, from cover to cover, I can only say. Thank you very much for that. That was very nice. Now, Leif, even though LSD was illegal, the government in the UK presented you with a tax bill for earnings on your drug-running empire. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Well, you're asking the wrong person, John. I think the government should explain.
They're not here to stand up for themselves, I'm afraid.
No, surely the fact that they wanted a cut from our illegal actions means that they are accessories after the fact. Maybe they should be prosecuted. This is all a long time ago. And actually, the story as to why we were presented with tax bills is an interesting one. It's quite lengthy. I explain it in the book. I don't want to give away all my secrets on air.
Of course.
But earlier you asked about the money I made. My tax demand, all the principal characters were given tax demands, some of them large. My tax demand for my annual earnings was £4,700. It's not exactly a fortune, not even in those days.
No. Still the government wanted it, huh? Now you seem to...
Actually, no. A deal was struck that...
I see. Yes, that's in the book.
That's in the book.
Yeah, I remember. Now, you seem to have lived 2 lives. Your life back then in the hippie era and your life since release from prison. In these 28-odd years after your release, you have been a teacher in Spain and a philanthropist, setting up a home for orphans in Malawi, and together with your partner Sue, you run an organic food shop here in the Gascony region of the south of France where you live. Now, looking back on your life, have you any regrets? I mean, it's been so great since the prison days. Have you any regrets about the earlier years and that?
No, I don't, John.
No?
No, I feel I've experienced life to the full, and I'm rich in memories. And I live with a wonderful woman in a beautiful part of the country, and it's beautiful here. And if my life had taken a different course, I wouldn't be sharing my life with Sue, and almost certainly wouldn't be here talking with you right now.
Mm. Mm. Well, yes, when we were young, and I'm still here with Leif Fielding, talking to Leif. Leif, as I said, was one of the drug dealers jailed as a result of Operation Julie, the big famous drug bust in 1977. Leif, after the big bust, there was inevitably a big vacuum left behind. It was filled by up-and-coming drugs gangs with a strong, I suppose, criminal nature, you might call it. Would you say legalizing drugs would help curb some of the crime, the terrible crime that we see associated with drugs today?
Yes, a strong yes.
A strong yes to that one.
And history supports my view, I think. As an example, alcohol was made illegal in the USA in 1919, and prohibition led directly to the rise of the mafia, directly to the massive step-up of organized crime in America. It's a problem they're still dealing with. The thing is, the social costs of prohibition are far worse than the costs of dealing with the consequence of drug abuse. We must recognize that we are a drug-taking species. Coffee, heroin, cider, cocaine, aspirin, marijuana, tea, ecstasy, peyote, tobacco.
Did you mention coffee?
These are just a few of the drugs in the world. The war on drugs cannot be won. It's a nonsense. Look, when I was at university, back in the 60s, there were 2 junkies in Reading. 2.
Yeah. You and?
No. I'm talking about heroin addicts.
Oh, heroin, I'm sorry.
Addicts.
I understand, yeah.
2.
Yeah.
You can see them, they're hanging around white nights. Everyone knew who they were. They were no trouble to anyone, and they were no kind of example. No one wanted to be like them. They were sad people just waiting for their fix. They didn't do anything.
Now, can I just interrupt you? LSD doesn't have that effect on you.
LSD is not addictive.
It's not. That's what I thought. Yeah.
No, it's not addictive.
And side effects?
Side effects of LSD, they vary a lot. I now recognise that it's not for everyone. LSD has had incredibly successful results as a therapeutic use. In the 50s and the early part of the 60s, treatment of chronic alcoholics was, the results were astounding, never been equalled anywhere.
Is that right?
Yes, in one test, in one example, 50% of the alcoholics who had had one LSD trip quit alcohol, 50% of them had not had a drink 1 year after the session, a psychotherapeutic session with a qualified doctor.
Right. That's quite astounding, really.
But yes, LSD makes you very suggestible, and in the days when I was first taking it, everything was sweetness and light. It really was. And everyone I knew, pretty much everyone, had wonderful experiences. Within those wonderful experiences, you could experience moments of terror and panic, and everything is much more intensive. So if you're in a bad situation and you don't trust the people around you, then the last thing you should do is take LSD. The effects are very, very wide-ranging, enormously so.
Wow.
But, yeah, for me and for all my friends in those days, the effects were extraordinary, transformational. And actually, I'm still friends with a lot of these people. We bonded at a very deep level. Yeah. And all of them are fine.
That's fantastic, yeah. So you're all fit and healthy.
Yeah. Well, we're getting on. Some if they smoke too much tobacco and so on, as I did,
probably a worse drug.
Not quite as healthy, or a bad drug. Yeah. But even so, it shouldn't be illegal. Even the bad drugs shouldn't be made illegal.
Right.
I think.
Okay.
Just you interrupted me.
I'm sorry. Yes,
no, it's all right. You're here to interview me, John, and no problem. But I was saying there were two junkies in Reading back in
that's right
in the late '60s. How many are there now?
Oof.
I don't know, but I expect there are thousands. There are 1/3 junkies in the UK now. Estimates vary between 300,000 and 500,000, but say 1/3. And virtually every one of those has to steal quite a lot every day to get their daily fix. This results in a complete breakdown in trust in society. Everyone locks their doors. Nobody trusts anyone. I mean, the consequences of the war on drugs include this crime wave of theft, the criminalisation of a big chunk of society, and the rise of ruthless gangs who fight each other over control of their territory. And the cities of Britain have become a war zone. I mean, how clever is this war on drugs?
It's
What's going on?
The fabric of society is disintegrating. Huh?
I'm afraid so. You know, they've trapped themselves. The politicians, they've put themselves in a corner and they can't seem to find a way out because it's not working. Their policies are not working. Yeah.
Now, Leif, on page 225 of your book, you describe with what I might call great prose a massive acid overdose that you experienced as a result of a spillage while you were tabbing, or in other words, creating tablets from the acid. Now, this must have been an amazing high, was it?
It was, I think, the most extraordinary experience of my entire life. And not really susceptible to analysis with words. I mean, I said a few things in the book, but I was out of my body. I was somewhere in the solar system, watching our planet, looking at it, and watching the whole rise and fall of humanity, and then watching the cycle start all over again. I mean, it really was.
Crikey!
It was unbelievable. And yes, one of the truisms about acid is that you have no sense of time, and you don't. You can think you've done unbelievable things, and hours have gone by, and it's a couple of minutes.
I see.
And I thought that trip. I'd been reading a bit about Hindu religion, interested in sort of different areas of spirituality, and according to the Hindus, the cycles of the world last 4,320,000 years.
Is it a cycle of bad summers and then good summers? That could be Ireland.
Good summers, Ireland.
In 4 million years' time, perhaps.
Anyway, I went through an entire cycle and came right back to the point where I'd been.
In one massive trip.
4 million year trip.
The 4 million. Now, what do you think of the whole drug scene then today? I mean, we touched on how bad the crime is, but what do you think of the drug scene?
Well, John, in the 60s it was peace and love and flowers. And now it's gangs and guns and turf wars and murders. I think it's very sad. I really think it's very sad. I think things could improve if the government would only have the courage to grasp the nettle and legalise drugs and control the sale of them. I don't suppose they will.
Just before we go on to the next point, I mean, you're doing organic food at the moment here in France.
That's right.
Would you like to say a few words about that and how people can get in touch with you and learn from you and buy from you?
Well, first of all, the reason we're doing it is because of the increasingly degraded nature of industrial agriculture. The pesticides, the herbicides, the contamination, the collateral damage that has on the wider environment. So we ourselves want to eat the best and the purest food we possibly can, and more than that, we want to make that available to everyone else who feels the same. So that's why we're doing it. If anyone wants to get in touch with us, Well, there's two different ways. If you've got a pen handy, our phone number is 0562 393380. Or you can look at my website where my email address is and email me. And my website is leaffielding.com.
Excellent. Okay. Everything's pure with you. Pure LSD and pure food.
You should not settle for anything less than the best.
Life is too short.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I know you have a...
Life is very short if you take degraded substitutes.
I know a lot of your friends are listening this evening, Leaf. Would you like to say a big hello?
Yes, thank you, John. Thanks for the opportunity. So, hi, Neil and Carol, Phil and Claire, Mike, Ali and Miles, Steve and Amy, Howard and Denise, Rosemary, Caroline. In fact, hi to everyone who's been listening. And I'd like to say a special hello to Sue.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, darling. I'll be home in about 40 minutes. Stick the kettle on, would you?
Leaf Fielding, thank you so much for coming on the Gascony Show this evening.
Thank you, John. Thanks for inviting me. It's been a trip.
Thanks. That was Leaf Fielding, folks, ex-kingpin in the LSD production business and author of To Live Outside the Law. Now, his book is described as a most compelling personal story, but one which offers remarkable insights into a time, a mindset, a generation, and a major chapter in British criminal history. It's also an absolutely thrilling read, and I can vouch personally for that. And if you would like to know a bit more about Leaf Fielding, visit his website, www.leaffielding.com. And to finish off this interview, I'm going to put on an appropriately selected tune again. This one is LSD from Infected Mushroom.